Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlene Buchanan. I'm Chief Learning Officer at ITEL International and just another member of the GSS sector. I have the pleasure today of hosting our Fireside chat, which is a part of a series of career success with the GSS. And of course, the theme is leveling up through training. And this is actually a part two of a two-part series. So we'll have a few guests that will be joining us from different sectors within the GSS sector. But before we jump right into it, a few things that it would be remiss of me not to bring to you, right? So first thing, of course, right, I would love if we could actually look and revisit some of the sessions that we had in the past around career opportunities and different segments in the GSS sector, right? Such as the BPO outsourcing, knowledge process outsourcing, which is KPO, and information technology outsourcing, which is ITO. All of these are growth opportunities within the newly developed or newly rebranded GSS sector. And of course, these and more tidbits can be located at the Talent Hub page on our website and also our LinkedIn profile. And of course, for you streamers, you can actually go to the GSS YouTube channel. Now, as someone who lives in pedagogy, I am quite thrilled to be a part of this session, as I think that the day that you stop learning is when you close your eyes. So it is with pleasure that I have the ability to speak to you, share with you, and give you some insights as to the career opportunities and the roles within the sector, right? I also want to share with you that over 91 companies are now a part of the GSS sector, hiring over at least 60,000 individuals across the industry. Now, I also want to share with you that we also have development programs that not only get you ready and mobilized for supervisory management, but equally leadership and operations management, thus empowering our employees to transition to mid-level, supervisory, and of course, leadership roles. Now, the fun part about it is that you also have the opportunity to earn whilst you achieve national certification. Now, for the cadence and the time frame, of course, you're looking at month over month, but this is actually stretched out over a 12-month period. And as I mentioned earlier, you earn while you learn. A little bit on the nose, but of course, you have to put some money in the pocket, right? As a reminder, this is actually an apprenticeship program, right? And of course, we have our own little adage or acronym that we call PEAK, which is Perform to Enhance and Accelerate Your Knowledge. Currently, we have roughly about 3,000, but approximately 2,750 apprentices who actually have been enrolled into the program. Now, again, all of these tidbits and more information can definitely be located on our GSS Hub, our YouTube channel, and of course, our LinkedIn website. Now, without further ado, as I mentioned, we have some surprise guest artists with us, right? Coming all the way from let me see. We have two persons, one in operations management and another with a very unique blend. And I have the pleasure of speaking and introducing you both. With us, we'll have Shantae Moffat, who is a highly accomplished professional with a diverse educational background and extensive expertise in the fields of information, communication technology, and law. Right? Now, she holds an ICT degree with honors and a law degree from the prestigious University of London. And of course, she's actually in pursuit of her master's degree in both law and business tech from the University of Law. She has a passion for education and development and not only exceeded in her academic pursuits, but she's also a lead lecturer of the GSS Trainer program, which she actually contributed quite a lot. Her role involved, of course, something that's dear to my heart, mentoring and training aspiring individuals, and of course, having the ability to impart the knowledge within her strong suits, such as ICT background and beyond. Additionally, of course, with all these bullet points and accolades, right, she's a certified assessor for HeartTrust NTA. Join me in welcoming Shantae.
Hi, Sherlan. Thanks for
I had
having
to
me.
take, I had to take a breath, right? Like, save some for us, Shantae, please.
I promise. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. So also joining us later on is Antoine Williams, who is actually an operations manager at BXI Global and brings 4 years of progressive experience within the organization. He has operations knowledge, QA knowledge, training knowledge that gives him a well-rounded understanding of the contact center industry. His journey has been one of the reasons why we continue to have these sessions as individuals are developed from these discussions and, of course, provide fruitful and healthy conversation. Throughout his tenure, he has consistently demonstrated a passion for optimizing customer service delivery and driving his team to success. He'll be joining us later on in the session, but it would be remiss of me not to also share with you some of the tips. All right, so let's jump right into it. Let me see, we have no questions as yet. No bookings as yet, Shanti. No one wants to jump into your law degree as yet, so, see us. So we have a few questions that we actually want to throw in your direction, right? So you're up, Shanti. So my first question that I have for you is that how can companies in the Jamaica global service sector, the GSS sector, perceive and prioritize training within their organizational culture? It's a lot of words.
Right? That's actually a very good question because when persons hear about, especially in the global services sector or even training overall, it's like them just getting a new product that everybody has to be knowledgeable about. But you can vary off into just soft skills and upskilling yourselves. It depends on the department that you're in, and you can be encouraged because there are a lot of free or rather cheap programs that persons can get onto, and at the end of it they'll find themselves upskilling and coming out with another level of certification, which is very important because once you study a particular topic or a course or even just something short, you become more confident in that area, and it helps you to boost just self-confidence on a whole and how you work and how you relate. So some of the ways is just introducing and giving knowledge like little brochures, little nuggets to say, hey, this is happening here. The onus is on you as the individual, but the companies can sort of bring it in as a tradition to help the individuals, not only for the growth and development of the company, but the growth and development of the employees. That's very important.
Solid words from our law fellow student, right? I heard a few words that jumped out at me. Tradition. And when I hear tradition, my synonym hat says culture, right? So I have a follow-up question for you, right? I'm not being trouble.
No
But
problem.
how can companies cultivate such a culture and assist their employees through training and upskilling?
They can bring on government entities, uh, make it as easy because sometimes life gets busy and people chasing coins, people just at that. So sometimes a career isn't necessarily the foundation of when you're younger you say, oh, I want to be a lawyer, a doctor, an Indian, a chief, whatever. But then life happens and you find out the tuition fee, and you find out if there's someone or the organization, let's say, to sort of bring it as a you have health benefits, you have this. What about educational benefits?
I agree.
What about not just paying my tuition but actually a guidance to my career path? Let me know that, okay, if I want to become, let's say, a lawyer, there's not only one way to do that. You can try different countries because we know what's happening here, and you can try different routes on how to, sort of go on that pathway. And so you find that once the company has implemented things like these, and even Heart Trust, NSTA, are they have a lot of certifications, and they can bring them on board because it's a government entity and say, okay, well, we have some persons in the IT department, we'd like to train them in data analytics or web development. So that is an avenue that can be taken to encourage the employees, and as I said before, not just for the betterment of the organization but for the employees themselves.
Yep, solid feedback. Thank you. And I think building on that, I would remember this from my one of my first Psych 101 lectures, right? He always says you win heart and minds. And I believe I heard you spoke about it earlier regarding culture, right?
Mhm.
Tradition,
Yeah.
creating that educational foundation, and not just for the organization, but for the individual. I'm pretty sure that Shantia will remember the first company that invested in her, paid for her first course so she can start, right? And I'm pretty sure on this session, I'm not saying you should name drop them, right? But if at some point you would speak with pride that this company enabled you and you can speak from the rooftops regarding the support. So I'm happy to hear similar talk tracks along that line.
Definitely.
All right, good. All right. So as we peel back the layers a little bit more, right? So one that I think is going to be a little bit dear to your heart is certification, right? The
I
big
saw what
C.
you did there.
So how can professional certification enhance one's credibility and marketability in their
Of
field?
course, certificate. I'm always emphasizing on getting certified. If you know how to polish nails, well, let's start from there. If there's a certification for hammering a nail through a concrete wall, get that. That's proof, not only word of mouth, but that's documentation. That's black and white to say, listen, I know how to do this, and here is my evidence. I would have gone through some different levels of uh or different steps or different courses and mastered them. So this is what I have here now as a document, and it belongs to me. No one can take it from me. And in most cases, when you're getting certified for these things, it's international certification. Of course, the onus will be on you to do your due diligence and your background check to ensure that it is an accredited certification that you're getting. But I would encourage everyone, and a lot of times, even though it's not a plug or anything like that, but of course, Hard Trust NSTA, they have free courses up to level 4, so you can just find out something that you might say, there's a little spark, not really a burning bush, but a tiny spark, and you go and you do that course and you try that course and you find out that's a part of your passion, and then you say, okay, I'd really like to go further in this. What's next, and then it still comes back to the organization and how it will benefit the organization, because you'd find that your employee would be more well-rounded, and the more you learn, the more you do additional courses, the more, as I said before, the more confident you'll become and just knowledgeable, because you can know when somebody is knowledgeable about what they're talking about or the topics because of the intense research that they have done and all of that. So of course, certification, definitely, even if it's free.
Good. And I'm happy you touched on, again, building on that, quite a few gems, right? One's credibility and the ability to be marketable. There's also something that's happening right now with NSTA that's, I think it's not celebrated enough, is that putting on my recruitment hat, we are creating a talent pool of super soldiers, if I could borrow that without Marvel, coming from, right? We're
Okay.
creating our own versions of super soldiers within the GSS sector, right? With different mindset, with different skills, practical knowledge, coders, persons in law, combining that with cybersecurity. A few years ago, that would not have been a thing. No, it is the thing. It's a niche area, right? So again, one, it creates that pool that Jamaica never had before. No, we actually have that pool. And as you mentioned earlier, it's not just within Jamaica. You have the ability to take your expertise outside. Not saying you should only and leave us alone. But the good news is we have persons like Shante here. We can lead some of these classes and certify us, right? Credible certification.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. So I'm gonna pick your brain a little more, right? And I'm gonna ask, as an employer, right? How do you think employers would perceive the value of training and certifications when considering candidates for promotions and new opportunities? I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, and you
Yes,
gave us some
definitely.
gems, but I wanted to speak on it a little bit more for me.
Okay, hold a second, one second.
I think Christopher dropped in and he gave us, yep,
Sorry.
optical
I'm sorry, I was muted for a
following.
bit there. And you were saying about incorporating the
Yeah, so
certification
correct.
with
Promotions and
the
new
promotions and
opportunities.
stuff. Of
Right.
course, let me just give you an example. Let me just go back in the classroom for a bit. So there was a course that I was doing, and one of the prerequisites for that course was that you had to have customer service. It's a postgraduate certificate, but you had to have customer service. It had to be done. If you did not have the certification, like the physical paper, meaning if you completed the course and you just didn't get the cert or anything like that, they're saying that, okay, well, you have to do it again. That's how important certification is, and it goes back to checks and balances. Because you can say, because if you go to the doctor's office, let's go from small scale to large scale. If you go into your doctor's office and it doesn't look like or feel like, or like you are where you're supposed to be as a doctor, you visiting the doctor, and of course he has that piece of certification on the wall, or certifications in most cases. There's a deeper level of confidence. A trust is developed. So if I am in the sector, in a particular sector, and I am supposed to be certified for in an area, let's say accounting, I wouldn't leave it up to my employers to just believe that I've been an accountant for many years. I would need some level of proof, documentation to say, okay, well, this is the rigorous training that I've been through, and these are the things that I know how to do. And it can help your organization or your employer. It can basically tell them the points on where to train you on. Because if you have been trained in payroll and you have been in payroll for 5 years, okay, well, there's another angle. We can start training you to prepare the documents for a financial statement, something to that extent.
Yep. Agreed. And I think also when you look at it, I think we've seen it too many times where an individual is assigned a role and some of the actions you question, what is the logic behind that, right? And I think it's not just that there's a lack of will. I think the training and the application, which goes back to the checks and balances you alluded to earlier, right? Overall governance. In order for you to be proficient in the topic, you have to understand the fundamentals and the foundations, right? Something as essential as customer service. I'm happy that, someone stood on business, that in order to be accepted.
Definitely. And customer service is not just, and a lot of persons underrate, sort of underrate customer service. It's very, very important. It is extremely important to the point where it goes in so much details, because there's different levels for customer service. I also teach a customer service course, so I can tell you how that goes, right? And it's a bit underrated, but it is very necessary, extremely necessary. And I'm not just saying that to say hello and a smile. It will come up because I am customer service trained. I relate differently. My communication skills have increased, on a whole different level. So customer service, as simple as it sounds, and people say, "Oh, customer service." No, it's very important, and it's something I think that a training that everybody should go through once you're in business, or even desire to start your own business.
I'd take it a step further. I'd say once you're a living, functioning human being, customer service should be a part of your curriculum.
Definitely.
Thank you. And again, for growth, everyone on, right? Promotions are good, but ensure that you have that tribal knowledge, you have the certification and the accolades to go with it, because that's one of the only ways that new opportunities can be created, right? And if you look at how people go through and acquiring their masters or their PhD, it's always coming up with new ideas, challenging the status quo, right? But you can only do that with consistent learning.
Definitely.
All right. I don't think that Anton has joined us yet. So Sean Pates, it's us. We're powering all the way through. All right. No, also, I want to find out what influence does training and certification have on an individual's overall job security? And the reason I'm bringing that up right now is because we're now in the age of AI, where a lot of RPs are being created, bots, automations. ChatGPT, of course, has been launching different upgrades. I think they're at 4.1 right now, where you can get some of these advanced analytics processes achieved in quick turnaround time. So from an individual that's joining here, how does training and certification help you in overall job security?
Of course, training and certification is going to help you with job security, because you now, if you're starting at the front desk as the receptionist, once you've done your training and certain level of job certification, it is going to want to propel you in the next department. Because if you did HR training, you're not going to want to sit at the receptionist desk anymore. Automatically, you have done the work, you have gotten your certification. There's going to be a nudge, a fire will be ignited in you to say, okay, it's time to move, I need to go up, I need to move. And maybe employers might not say as much, but they will admire you and the growth that has been happening under their care, basically, because they have given you a hub, basically, on an environment on how to grow, where to grow, what to do. And they would have looked back somewhat, especially if it's a smaller organization. They would have looked back and they would have said, oh, you're not the same place where you came. Because people say, oh, you stay at one job for 20 years, but one job, 20 years, where in that job? Because if you were the same receptionist 20 years, as when you started, then where would the growth have taken place? So the job security now, because they would have looked at you and said, oh, well, she probably just wants to be a receptionist, or she probably, there would be a lot of ifs or questions, or say, okay, well, we're moving forward and this receptionist is still using the typewriter. We need someone that knows how to use the computer. So the evolution of your career is solely up to you in many cases. But once you decide to do that, as I said before, a fire will ignite. You'll get a nudge, and it will be time to go. You'd say, okay, all right, what next?
Yep. And I think you touched on part two of the question that I had, which is how can professionals acquire specific certifications and stay relevant, right? As you just alluded to, instead of moving away from the typewriter, I'm old school. I learned to literally use the typewriter, right? I got hit on the tip of my fingers learning how to type. There's no backspace. There's literally strike throughs, right?
Exactly.
So happy when my fingers
and then there was a new technology with the eraser for the typewriter, and it was the best thing since sliced bread, right?
So
but then here came the computer, MSN Messenger, Yahoo, all of that. And then the evolution of the internet and dial-up and the computer and everything wireless. And now the thing about it is now, we have been in the AI. A lot of persons are just now speaking about AI, but we have been in AI for the longest time. But our perception or the culture of what we'd say our perception of AI would have been is seeing a robot just moving like this and doing tasks. But the AI is actually the internet. The internet has been there for the longest while. You used to have dictionaries, encyclopedia. When you got a project, you had to use the encyclopedia.
I'm gonna call my age.
And Microsoft, if you never have from A to Z, if you had from A to Z, you were the cat's pajama. So now we're saying, okay, Chat GPT, all of these other bots, all of these things that are now doing the work for you. But there is some level of accountability, because if you don't have the knowledge about what you're researching, it might carry you down a not so correct road, right? Meaning that the information might be compromised, because even though there are bots and it's making our lives easier, what will happen is that if you do some research on Jamaica, because we know Jamaica, right? And if we look up the food or so, we see some of the information is not as accurate as what we know living here in Jamaica. It's just like that with a particular topic or a subject. If you have no clue what this is about, and this is your only thing to do, you're in trouble. So you still have to get certified. You still, I don't think of course, there's a popular debate about AI taking over humans' jobs and so. And I said, while AI might take over some jobs, or might be a better investment, quote unquote, because that's relative, you will still need someone to maintain the AI. You'll still need someone that has, human features to know that, okay, well, not this, not a if then else loop. It won't fix that. A
No
loop
smooth
won't
code.
fix that. So there's no full takeover. But as I said before, AI has been here because right now, if we didn't have the internet, there would be no meeting. We wouldn't be on this platform. Someone had to develop a software so we could speak on a public platform. The internet had to stop dial up because if my mother or my auntie was on the phone, I could
Phone
not be
bill.
on this internet right now because you say, get off the phone, I need to use the internet. So we have passed that, and AI has been around for longer than we are willing to admit.
Shante, I think I'd love if you stop. Don't tell our age. Let's just say that you're an appreciation of history. You don't need to call our age out, right?
I
So we,
won't. I won't.
but I'm happy you touched on that, right? Because it's a very sensitive topic and one that can have individuals feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I can share an experience I had with an individual who has worked in this industry for almost a full score, 2 decades, right? And he's now pursuing his master's, and he's also doing additional training in coding. And he and I were partnering on a few things together. And it's so interesting that some of the opportunities and challenges that we were faced with in the past, and we thought these things were impossible, right? We could just simply go look at an open source and just write a code, and that's just where it is. So the possibilities are endless, and I think that's why upskilling helps a lot, and it can make you a lot more marketable, which was one of the questions we spoke on earlier, right? And again, stay relevant because have evolved. As you mentioned, back in the days with the typewriter, with the keyboard, it's the same way. We used to have horses, carriages, and we moved to the locomotives. Then, of course, here come the airplanes, and of course, who knows? We're going into space, right? Consistently. So it is evolution, and it's how we continue to grow, right? But with that said, let's push further, right? Now, something that's dear and near to my heart, and it's something that each and every time we deploy this in our initiative, we always have to type an ROI. Now, how does investing in training and certification contributes to an individual's long-term professional growth?
All right, let me ask you this. Have you ever had someone invest in you, whether time, just take time out to maybe follow you to the doctor? That's an investment. Yeah,
Indeed.
the simplest thing to the most. I mean, it will, at level of loyalty,
There you go.
will be developed automatically because you are going to remember without, even if the person does not or the organization does not say, well, if we're paying for your education, you have to stay with us for 5 years. Automatically, well, your integrity or your your moral compass will put you to the forefront
Yeah,
as,
it's like I think I
listen,
should stay with them. Yeah,
some money wouldn't be your only driving factor. There's
indeed.
a level of loyalty and respect that can derive from employers investing in their employees, training and development. And development and training is not, one time you hear about training, you think about maybe a new skill or so, but training can be just the simplest thing. Uh, what are the business processes, where do we start from, even that? And even you as an individual, like a manager or someone like that, just showing someone. I remember I have not to cut the story, but it's aligned, I promise. My supervisor, she was just so very helpful. She's still my supervisor, but she was just. I'm just saying, she's genuinely. When I came on board, and I believe in the term lifelong learning. You don't have to be set up in a school or institution, but
Doesn't
if
have
you
to
are
be.
willing to learn from someone that has been through what you are about to go through, hence mentorship and all of that, it's better to learn from mentorship than mistakes, because when you have a good mentor and someone that is there to say, hey, listen, if you do that, this is what the result might be, so you might not want to do that. It
Mm-hmm.
helps you, it literally helps you from making some of these mistakes cannot be undone. They're expensive. Mistakes are expensive, and once you ring a bell, you can't unring a bell. So someone's perception of you might just, be different because of that mistake which you made, not knowingly, because if you don't know something, you just don't know. I've always said that. So the whole issue of mentoring, and my supervisor, I can talk about her anyway, as in she has just been so good and so helpful. And I think she doesn't know, I don't think she looks at it as an investment, but she has invested in me just
Sure.
by the mere guidance, because she knows the culture of the organization. I didn't at the time. I was new to this, and I became the student so I could be a better lecturer, and fulfill my duties even better. So I strongly believe in lifelong learning. Once there is a free course, I will jump and I will jump and take that once it's accredited, of course. And always do your own research. Have to do that, because you don't want to invest half of the year and then you realize, okay, I can only use this to do that. It's a bit of a bummer, but you can't go wrong. And I would employers should definitely invest in their employees,
Yeah,
if not
yeah.
for anything else, the loyalty and just to be a good person.
And this is a shout out to Shantae's supervisor. You know who you are. Hopefully you join the stream. And if not, let's go viral. But I'm happy, that someone whilst you saw that as her doing her job, it was even more uplifting to hear that it's inherent, right? That it's in her. And I think others, and again, you're doing the right thing by paying it forward, by joining the session, sharing these gems in your own, I call it your micro learning version of mentoring, right? So let's call it
Yeah.
that, and sharing that knowledge with everyone. So I, I, I too have some similar experiences. I'll never forget the first time um, I I think this was way back when my hairline used to be here. Um, I got my first credit card, and Six Sigma was the thing, and I'm like, oh gosh. So I had this immediate one down, and at the time, we all read about Six Sigma, but we couldn't afford it. So here I was with my credit card, and I said, okay, let's pay for it, right? And we went on the website, and then we purchased what we thought was a course, but it actually wasn't the course; it was the exam. So
Whoa.
it was yes. So I was like, that's what we get. So luckily we did hit start. So we had to download a copy, and the copy had watermarks and everything, you name it. But we were hell bent on not wasting my money. So we had to go through the PDF and YouTube videos, and of course, Six Sigma doesn't really load their content everywhere. So we had to just do a lot of self-paced learning.
Yeah.
Several years later, um, we are both master black belt, and we're going for a champion, right? And I think we'll be some of the few black belt
Wonderful.
champions in the industry within the LATAM region. So we're pushing for that. And it started with that one click of the credit card, right? A little bit of scared,
Right?
pretty scared, but and he paid it forward. He actually continues to do that with his one downs, and I'm happy we started that. So it's really good to hear that investing in certification, and it's always for me. If you look at the ROI, it always pays for itself and more.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Best practices will become a part of the culture, which we touched on in the beginning.
Definitely.
Now, as we go closer to famous last words, I have one last question for you, right? And again, I'm rinsing these words, training and certification, because that, of course, is our theme and upskilling. And you touched on a topic, right? Customer service. And of course, without customer service, you can't inspect it without the customer satisfaction.
Done.
So, my question to you is my final question. What impact does upskilling through training and certification have on job satisfaction, customer satisfaction, and motivation?
Okay, so that like you just gave a combo right there. Let's just put it like that. That's a full combo. Of course, what will happen is that automatically, once you have been trained and certified, you have motivated yourself. Basically, that's what that does to you, because you now feel more empowered. Okay, I have this piece of paper and I have this knowledge in my brain that I'm ready to see, what's gonna happen, where am I going to go. Of course it will, as I said before, it will propel you to different levels. It will allow your confidence to skyrocket. I can guarantee that. And what will happen is that even your promotion and upskilling can be not necessarily, sometimes it's not a next level within your career, but it's an additional skill set that you didn't know you needed, or you didn't know that you had. And once you started it, so you say, okay, so in addition to this, because let me just give you a quick backstory. When I started IT, I liked IT from a longer time and stuff. But the first job that I got wasn't IT related. It was basic. I was doing someone's taxes, and I was doing that, and I'm like, all right, so how this go? So anyhow, I have this knowledge here, this big knowledge with IT and degree, and then there the tax thing was how I was making my money. So how this part go now? Because I have this big thing here and this smaller version, because the big thing and the small thing not so right. So I just said, all right, well, this is going to be a new skill that I am going to have. I will always have my ICT degree. So I learned and I garnered that skill in taxation. And I was a tax consultant for years, and well, still am. But I garnered that skill because of how life sort of propelled me in that direction. Me not knowing what to do now, and say, then how the IT and this going to work? And let me tell you, sometimes if you try to pencil out things, it will never work. You just have to allow life to life, right? And what happened was an opportunity presented itself, and then I started in IT. So I went back to IT and I had a new skill, hello, that allowed me to make additional funds while still having my IT skills. And then I tried to garner the two, get enough experience in the two. And that it was the upskilling. Your upskilling can be, you have your 9 to 5, and you say you buy maybe some small products or some hair or some beauty products, and you realize that, oh, them selling, not just them selling, you're good in sales. Nurture that sales talent that you have now just discovered, and say, okay, well, so I have my 9 to 5, and I'm an IC instructor or lecturer, and I'm good at sales. So this is now you upskilling yourself with the additional talent that you have discovered that you now have.
Yeah.
So definitely.
And I think when you speak about it, right, I can hear the passion in your voice. You speak with such life and passion and vigor, right? No one has to ask if you're not satisfied in your job, and that translates into how you connect with people, right? And I think you said it earlier in the session. I think I'll challenge the viewers to go back when you said that when someone knows a topic, lives, breathes, sleeps, plays, pays rent, maybe does investment, the 401k, maybe a pension, right? They
Yes.
speak about it not as an item, but as a part of their ethos, right? They are thrilled. It's a privilege for them to share what they live and breathe to you. So it's not even a job for them. And that pulls out that inner fire, that passion. And I think that's something that we definitely love. And sessions like these with the GSS, right, allows individuals to have the ability to connect with individuals like yourself and Antoine, right? And motivation is intrinsic. Yes, there are also external factors that are there, but I think it all starts from the heart, right? And I said the head and the heart, right? Hearts and heart. And I think by connecting that's where you've used the word earlier on, inspire, right? You inspire persons to connect, to step out, learn something new. It's like someone would have never thought, and Devanos needs to pay me for this, they would have never thought to put bun and cheese ice cream. But hey, here's Easter, right? So here you are, so we're coming up with new things, right?
Definitely.
Less of Devanos and their bun and cheese ice cream. This is not a paid sponsor. So, but it's that skill set that you never knew you had or needed, because
Yes.
you had, if you had stayed in that mode, you would not. So you stepped outside, you went into accounting, you had the IT background, you have the customer service background, and that niche area is becoming a lot more. So it challenges individuals, and via partnership for the GSS sector, we have the ability to showcase that with individuals like yourself and Antoine. So that's good. And you actually survived the combo. You survived the 3-hit combo.
I've survived multiple combos.
All
But
right. Nice.
I
Well,
if I had to say one thing, it would be just to start. Just start. Anywhere you are, just start. Make that first step. Fill out that application. Even if sometimes you're probably not qualified, or you think you're not qualified, or just step out. Just start. And you will be amazed. I've lived my life like that for years. Just start.
Dante, I think we have kicked the hornet's nest. I see a lot of things about bun and cheese and ice cream, but before we unpack that or take the cover off, I think we have a question from our audience. Let me double check. All right. How can one get to the next level with free training versus paid training courses? Do you think paid training is more fruitful, or can free training be as effective? I know you touched on a lot, but being very direct to the answer, I think, is where you'd want to go.
Okay. All right. So sometimes what will happen with free training, of course, free training in most cases is like an intro course. It's just like a feel of what could be. So what you could do, if you tried out, let's say intro to cybersecurity, right? If you like it, if you find that there's a niche because it's a huge umbrella, maybe you can decide to take it a step further with the paid course. So it's like, when you go to the supermarket and there are samples, try as much free course as possible. See which one, sort of ignites your fire. Or when you do it, you say, I really like this. And then you can try the paid version of the course. Or maybe you can, do a little pitch to your employer to say, hey, I've done this particular section and I need to go further. Based on, it depends on the culture of the organization, of course. So paid would of course be more fruitful because it is a higher level, but then to help you to get to that paid route, you could try some of the free ones. So I'm not just saying just do course to do its sake. You must have, of course, a particular aim or a career goal, and it should align with that in most cases. So what you would do with that, just try to attempt the free courses, see what's a best fit for you, and then you can try with the paid course. And in IT or anything else, or I always say in any tertiary institution, there's always a payment plan. So sometimes person think about doing an additional course or something like that, and in a lot of cases there, money is an issue, because life is happening, and where are you going to find all this money to pay for that?
Life is life.
There's always a payment plan in every international institution and locally. So I hope I have successfully answered your question. But
Yeah,
if I haven't, yes, paid training courses, of course, it would be a bit more fruitful. But find what you want to pay for first and do your research.
Yep. And of course, I'm not saying you should have your money back, but of course, when you pay for a service, you pay for what you need, right? So I also stand on that business there, right? Pay for what you definitely need. And again, invest in it as Lola is here, invest in your future, right? Lola has said earlier, I'm sure Bud and Cheese didn't think it would be ice cream, so anything is possible. So for the person who mentioned earlier, right, whether free or paid, hey, as Lola mentioned, right, Bun and Cheese didn't wake up and say, I'm going to be ice cream. So someone had to do the investment there, and here we are, right? Christopher also said, the more skills you have, the more valuable and marketable you will be, right? Try to learn as much as you can while completing your day-to-day activity or day-to-day job. So thank you, Lola, Christopher. Good tidbits, right? Now, as we are coming to a close, Shante, I think it has been really great sitting with you, vibing, thinking, talking through a lot of things. Um,
Thank you.
just from the fun fact that one, again, this is career success with the GSS. And of course, we're doing our part two of the part two series, right? So I invite you to go back and listen part one. And then, of course, the theme is leveling up through training, right? We have information on the Talent Hub. You can also get the information on LinkedIn. And of course, for those viewers, you can actually go to the YouTube channel, right? We, within the industry, again, from the top, 91 companies right now and counting, over 60,000 individuals. And we actually do a lot of apprenticeship programs that develop supervisors, leadership management, and above, whether it's mid-level supervisory or overall leadership, right? It's also earn while you learn. So I know it's a little bit on the nose, but we ensure that you have a little shilling in your pocket, right? And of course, right now we have up to at least 2,750 persons enrolled in the program. The individual that you have, I'd say we are trying to contain the passion and condensing it under an hour is Shantae Moffat, and she actually has a very diverse and blended background in IT, law, and everything that's under God's son, right? So you have heard us touch on quite a few topics on from the top where certification, training, being marketable, job security, and all the way going through upskilling and learning something new. So some of the things that I'd actually want to do before we wrap up, right? I'd love if it is that you have feedback or recommendations for the hub, emailing us at communications_GSS at jamprocorp.com. So that's communications_GSS at jamprocorp.com, and send us a message on any one of our social media platforms. I alluded to it earlier, but you also can go to our YouTube channel. You can actually look on our Talent Hub, and of course, you can follow us on our LinkedIn or any one of our blog websites. We also have a few tidbits where you can actually go to the GSS Career Pathway Framework, which is at www.mygscareerpathway.gov.jm to learn about our career pathways. And again, I keep putting that plug. Follow us on our social media websites. You have all of them. If there's anything, feel free, go to our hub. Again, challenging you again to go to part one of the series and then part two to hear everything that Shanti and myself would have touched on earlier. Lola, Christopher, thank you so much for your comments and the questions raised. And again, it has been such a pleasure, Shanti, speaking with you. I think, you know, we could have been twins.
Thank you guys for having me. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. All right. Well, until we meet again, everyone, this has been a pleasure. My name is Sherlyn Buchanan, Chief Learning Officer here at ITEL International, and I wish you all the best.